Just a quick round of introductions for you all. We have with us our Deputy Director, Jamie Ergus. We've got Monique Quidley, who's our Director of Development, Lawrence Smith, our Director of Programs, Demi Henry is our Volunteer Coordinator, and Demi is with us as well. We have Michiko Yoon, our Communications Specialist, and last but not least, already invoked once, but getting a second mention, is Megan Cole, our Development Associate. So we're pleased to have so many on our team here with us. And go ahead and you can move that forward, Michiko. We will kick off at this point. So we're here to talk about the Alexandria Community Shelter. It's one of the biggest, newest headlines here at Carpenter Shelter. We want to give you an overview of what's going on. We want to see what things look like from your lens in the equation. And so with that, if you can advance one more, Michiko. Carpenter Shelter has been around for 35 years. Those 35 years have been a time of great growth, evolution, and as we celebrate 35, there's more growth that's happening right now. A week from this Wednesday, we will assume operations of the Alexandria Community Shelter. When we looked at the opportunity, there were a lot of different things we considered. I think the most principal of them was it is so squarely in our mission area. When we look at the feedback that has come from some of the clients, we believe we can provide a very quality experience, a better customer service experience for those who are being sheltered there. It allows us to do more of what we do, achieve a different economies of scale. It will provide, as an employer, additional professional development opportunities, promotional opportunities for our staff team to help continue to build their skills and abilities, because we want them to feel wholly fulfilled and we want them to feel like Carpenters is a place where they can grow and evolve as solid performers. And the last of the reasons was, I mentioned we achieved some economies of scale, but this does really diversify our revenue model in the mix. And so for just a lot of reasons, Carpenters threw their hat in the ring when the city invited proposals for this opportunity. Let me just take a quick look at my notes here and make sure I've covered the essentials of what I need to. I believe that is the case. And with that, I am going to turn things over to Jamie, our deputy, to talk about, I've invoked Alexandria Community Shelter a few times. Jamie, can you actually walk us through a little bit of a 101 of what that is?
Certainly. Thank you, Shannon. And I'm excited to be here tonight with everyone. And like Shannon mentioned, I am going to walk through some of the details of the Alexandria Community Shelter to orient you to Carpenter Shelter's newest program. So when I say Alexandria Community Shelter, I'm going to shorten it and abbreviate it to ACS. And just in case you are not familiar with the program already, it is located at 2355-B Mill Road, Alexandria. And it is just 1.9 miles from Carpenter Shelter's emergency shelter located at 930 North Henry Street. One thing that I will point out about the ACS is that there is ample outdoor parking. There is a parking garage as well. And then moving on to the program size, as Shannon mentioned, we currently operate a 64-bed program. We are going to operate the Alexandria Community Shelter, which is also a 64-bed program. Michiko, if you could go back one slide. And this transition also positions Carpenter Shelter as the sole emergency shelter provider in the community. Operating the shelter is such a tremendous opportunity to streamline programs and services, which will ultimately be better for the clients. ACS does serve single men, women, and families. ACS is actually the emergency shelter option for single individuals experiencing homelessness. And regarding the need for shelter, the city's referral list has been at 49 men, 5 women, and 21 families waiting for emergency shelter right now. With that being said, we do anticipate that both emergency shelters that we operate will regularly be at maximum capacity. The winter shelter, which is also in the same building as ACS, has been serving approximately 30 people every night since it opened November 1st. So again, we do anticipate we will have all beds filled at both programs. Next slide. ACS will be operated in partnership with the City of Alexandria. ACS is the city's program. So the facility is owned by the city, and the city funds majority of the operations. So Carpenter Shelter, when we are considering this opportunity back in the summer, Sheena talked about, we did end up submitting a fully cost burden proposal. We were able to use our own 64-bed emergency shelter as a guide when we developed the budget. And then additionally, we referenced 2 other comparable emergency shelter programs that are in neighboring jurisdictions, since those contracts and budgets are available to the public. So we were able to take a look at that as well when we were generating our proposal. The contract that Carpenter Shelter now holds with the city is for 3 years, but there are additional extension options that run up to 6 years. And the city has historically granted extensions. Carpenter Shelter has been working very closely with the vendor that's transitioning out of ACS, as well as the city, to ensure we can assume full operation of the program starting December 13th, just a week and a half from today. And although the timeline for the award, from the award to the start date, is not as long as would be ideal, the collaboration as a whole has been very positive. Next slide. So as you can imagine, we've been very busy hiring staff and getting ready for the start date. And we are excited to share tonight that Denise Ziegler has accepted the role and has actually started in the role as our director of the Alexandria Community Shelter. She has worked for Carpenter Shelter for the past 11 years. She has, in her position in the last 4 years, been working to stand up the seasonal winter shelter every year, which is a task in and of itself. Denise brings a wealth of experience, and we are very excited and grateful that she is on Team Carpenter Shelter and leading in this capacity. Next slide. So one of our stakeholders that Carpenter Shelter did engage really early on in this process is actually the current residents at ACS. Our Director of Programs, Lauren Smith, met with residents on October 23rd alongside the leadership from the existing vendor to just explain the transition and gather input. Residents were provided with written information about the change, and we also developed a survey that was available in print and electronically. And when this information was shared with residents, Carpenter Shelter has such a solid reputation of creating a caring and welcoming environment that residents were actually excited about the change, which was wonderful. We know that the areas that we need to work on were also mirrored in the resident feedback that we received. So residents noted some things about customer service, support services, as well as the facility, which does need a little bit of love. And we hope that that will be something that some of our volunteers on this call might be able to help with at a future date. But one of the most common concerns that residents expressed was about the food, which we will also talk more about in this meeting. Our existing meal providers know best, and you'll hear from some of them this evening as well, that offering a home-cooked meal is such a powerful way to connect the people that we're serving in the programs. So that's just a brief overview of Carpenter Shelter, Carpenter Shelter's Alexandria Community Shelter. So that gives you some information about the program, but now that you've heard about it, we're going to give you some visuals. We want you to be able to see it. So I'm going to pass it over to our Director of Programs, Lauren Smith, and he's going to give you a peek inside the building.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for that, Jamie. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. Please join me, you all, as we go through a tour of Alexandria Community Shelter. Here's the front of the building. As Jamie mentioned, there is ample parking outside, handicap spots directly in front of the building, and regular parking spots adjacent to the building, as well as a few directly in front of the building. The neighborhood is located directly next to the new Metro headquarters, right down the street from Wegmans and the Whole Foods, on Mill Road, across the street from the Hoffman Movie Theater, if any of you are familiar with those destinations. This is the front desk area. When you first walk into ACS, you'll see the staff desk there where you'll be greeted by the staff, and then the common area here for the residents. This is the kitchen area. They do have a full kitchen on site to include a walk-in refrigerator as well as a walk-in freezer, stove, server line, as well as a pantry ever so we can store dry goods, canned goods, dry goods, etc. Again, more pictures of the kitchen to include the server line, the stove, the pantry area. More shots of the pantry area for canned good and dry goods storage, condiments. Again, the picture of the walk-in refrigerator as well as the freezers. There's also a dishwashing area in the kitchen at ACS. And this is a sample of a family room. As Jamie mentioned, there are 6 family rooms at ACS. All the families had their individual rooms. The single males and single female rooms are similar, with the exception that there'll be 4 beds and they're shared by 4 females or 4 single males. And this is more shots of the family rooms over there at Alexandria Community Shelter, as well as a shot of the children's area. And I also want to mention Alexandria Community Shelter is fully ADA accessible. There is an elevator for those with disabilities. And that's our brief tour. So next, I'm going to pass it over to Demi Henry, our volunteer coordinator, so she can let you know how you can help.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Lawrence, for that introduction. I'm just super excited to continuously expand our volunteer services here at Carpenter Shelter, going into Alexandria Community Shelter. So tonight, as some of you are, majority of you are our existing meal providers and or meal servers. We're just super excited that you are joining us on tonight, learning more about our expansion to Alexandria Community Shelter and some faces we may not know, and you may just be interested in learning about how you can continuously support us at Alexandria Community Shelter. On tonight, our main focus for volunteerism, as we want to continue to spread the love of a warm meal to Alexandria Community Shelter, is staying and focusing on our volunteer opportunity of meal delivery and meal service. So our main opportunity that we would be taking on is meal service and meal delivery, which we will be looking to fill those spots starting on December 13th, which we have briefly spoke about, takes place in about a week and a half. So our main focus is making sure that we are able to provide meals just as we do here at Carpenter Shelter already to the residents that we serve at Alexandria Community Shelter. So with our meal service, or our meal delivery, I definitely want to talk about the main distinction between meal delivery and meal service. So as our existing volunteers may know, with meal delivery, what we are expecting is that a meal be provided, whether that be a cooked meal, that be a prepared meal, or that be a catered meal to our residents at Alexandria Community Shelter, which you can either prepare beforehand. Of course, you can have it ordered and or delivered, or you can prepare it in the facilities kitchen at Alexandria Community Shelter, just as you do already at Carpenter Shelter. With meal delivery, of course, if you are not able to serve, that is totally okay. You definitely are able to deliver that meal to us at Alexandria Community Shelter, and we would have volunteers in place in order to serve. So with meal service, the distinction between that meal delivery would be you would be prepping that meal that will be delivered for meal delivery, and you will be serving that meal to our residents at Alexandria Community Shelter. At Alexandria Community Shelter, as a majority of you may know, just as we serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that is going to be the same order and the opportunity that we will be extending over to Alexandria Community Shelter as well. So breakfast will be served on Saturdays and Sundays, and then of course lunch and dinner would be every single day of the week, 365 days. With our lunch service, it will be the same exact time frames. If you are not aware of the time frames that we do serve currently at Carpenter Shelter, I would definitely love to just help you have a better understanding. Our meal service for lunch at Alexandria Community Shelter, the window will be from 11:30 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. So that is the meal delivery window as well as the meal service window. So the expectation is to have that meal, if you are just opting for meal delivery, to be delivered to Alexandria Community Shelter anywhere between that 11:30-ish time frame to 11:45, so that we can begin promptly serving that meal at 12 o'clock p.m. And then, of course, for our servers to report for their volunteer opportunity for the day at 11 a.m. For our the model, again, we want to continuously just extend the same model that we do have at Carpenter Shelter. Your continued generosity and support really goes a long way. Our residents are just extremely grateful and extremely appreciative of the love that you all continuously put into each and every meal that we do serve already at Carpenter Shelter. And again, we want to extend that same love to our residents at Alexandria Community Shelter. With dinner, the same time frame will still stand. That will be from 5:30 to 7:30. So we definitely want to have that meal delivered between that 5:30, 5:45. Sometimes I know traffic can be a little, heavy. So again, we totally understand if it may be right at that cusp of 6, but we definitely want to have the meal delivered within that time frame so that our residents can continuously stay on schedule. One of the awesome opportunities that we are just extremely excited to announce is that we really have a great youth opportunity at Alexandria Community Shelter. Me, myself, being volunteer coordinator at Carpenter Shelter, I always get the question, can youth volunteer at Carpenter Shelter? And while we never want to say no, youth can't volunteer, unfortunately, as we have transitioned over families, just due to protecting the confidentiality of our youth in shelter, we want to make sure that those that serve at Carpenter Shelter are 18 years or older. But the great opportunity, as we are talking and discussing about Alexandria Community Shelter, is that rule will no longer apply at Alexandria Community Shelter, because we do serve more singles. So we are able to focus on our youth groups that are really interested in joining us and serving us and giving back to the communities and those that we do serve that are at risk of homelessness in the community. So with the youth opportunity, we are extending our volunteer opportunity services to youth groups ages 13 through 17. So families are invited to volunteer with us. We get the question a lot, hey, I want my family to come out, our young kids to volunteer with us. But we are just extremely excited to say that yes, now we are able to open our doors to those that are 13 through 17 that are looking to give back to the community. One restriction that we do have is that, of course, our youth must be chaperoned by an adult while they are at Alexandria Community Shelter. And ideally, we do not want to have more than 8 youth at a time in the kitchen, just so that we can ensure that lunch and dinner, as well as breakfast, that transition is moving smoothly, and that we are able to serve those meals, not with having so many people within the kitchen at one time, while the space is not that large. Next slide, please. So how you are able to help. So as we just briefly, or we've talked about how our main opportunity of volunteerism is really focusing on meal delivery and meal service with scheduling. We are still going to stick with Logistics, which is our volunteer portal, which our existing volunteers are aware of. But again, if you are new and you are just, wanting to learn about the opportunities that we do have currently, beginning December 13th at Alexandria Community Shelter. Logistics is our volunteer scheduling portal, which our volunteers like yourself would have access to once you do go through a volunteer training, as well as an application process. It's not very long. It is a very quick process. The turnaround time is very easy, but we just want to make sure that we are continuously protecting the confidentiality and the safety of our residents. So we do, of course, have these steps in place, but our volunteer scheduling portal is where you would see all the opportunities that are listed, just as you do see for Carpenter Shelter, for your meal delivery opportunities. You will see Alexandria Community Shelter opportunities as well. So here that you may see on the screen, which is logistics scheduling for Alexandria Community Shelter, you will see which is listed ACS meal delivery, and where you are able to schedule yourself through the scheduling portal for our actual meal delivery and meal service volunteer opportunity. The distinction will be very clear. One will say Carpenter Shelter, while the other will say Alexandria Community Shelter. We have abbreviated it, of course, which is so that you are able to know the clear distinction between our two residential shelters. The duties will be explained here. Of course, the address will be listed. So again, we are at 2335 Mill Road, and all the details that you will need in order to ensure that your meal delivery and meal service opportunity goes smoothly will be there. This is a quick overview of our calendar. So you as a volunteer, if you are aware of our logistics scheduling portal, would be able to see our openings. So for example, let's just use, of course, December 13th, 7 openings. So you would go and click on the 7 openings. You will see openings for Alexandria Community Shelter. You will see openings for Carpenter Shelter as well. So listed on your schedule, this is selecting that.
Demi, you're breaking up.
The schedule button here, and you're able to schedule for your Are you in?
We heard that portion. Try one more time, Dibby, restating what you just said.
Getting sort of green yourself see the openings you see from 11 a.m. to 1. It's ACS, and you also have PM delivery. So of course, again, click on the green box. You can schedule yourself a and then of course then receive reminders for when your shift will begin on that date that you have desired.
All right, do we want to go back to the previous slide one more time? I think you were still cutting out a little bit, Demi. So just in case, to restate that, when you pull up the volunteer system, I know, Nancy, you posted in the chat that you don't see any new options. The first option will start on December 13th. That's the first time you will see the ACS listings. When you actually click on the December 13th date, it should come up with all the openings that we have, and ACS will be specifically listed as that. ACS lunch service, meal delivery for lunch, and then of course we have the dinner slots open as well. Everyone able to hear that?
Yes, thank you, Megan.
No problem. All right, you can go to the next slide, Michiko, and hopefully we'll be able to hear Demi again.
Right. Y'all able to hear me?
Yes, we hear you, Demi.
Awesome. All right. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So for donations, of course, we are always continuously accepting of in-kind donations. If you are ever interested in donating to Carpenter Shelter as well as Alexandria Community Shelter, you can definitely email myself at dhenry@carpentershelter.org, and where you can definitely follow up to see if we have a current need. If you are wondering what our current needs are, if you, of course, are existing volunteer, and those that are new on our volunteer email listing, you will always receive the items of which we are currently for our residents that we do serve in shelter. But for when you are just curious if there's an item that we are looking or are interested in accepting, again, you can email myself and I can definitely let you know if that is something that we currently do have a need for. And as we, again, are transitioning to taking over Alexandria Community Shelter, in-kind donations is definitely a huge need currently as we are extending, of course, our services to those there at Alexandria Community Shelter. Our monthly, annual, or one-time financial donations, of course, can be via our website at carpentershelter.org or through your paycheck using this on the screen. Please do encourage everyone to share your ideas. If you have any suggestions, if you have any or how we can better or continuously improve through volunteerism, we would definitely love to see your experience in shelter. So you definitely are able to email us at information@carpentershelter.org, where we would definitely at your suggestions and of course put those into our best practice. Spreading the word, we ask that you help us get more involved in our patients in homelessness, excuse me, in Alexandria. We ask you
I think we're losing you, Demi.
Yeah,
please friends.
Demi, I'm going to jump in here if that's all right. Just recognizing that you've got some technical issues going on. Demi's been cutting in and out a little bit, but here's what we really hope that you hear from us. We are in a planning and implementation mode all at the same time. We appreciate your grace as we go through this. We also appreciate your phenomenal efforts to move our work forward, and we know that we do this as a team together. So when you do have thoughts and when you do have ideas, we want to see this through your lens as best as possible. So feel free to send those information at carpentershelter.org, and we will route that for whatever type of input you have, whether it's much more in the volunteer arena, whether it's much more in the programmatic arena. We want to see what this looks like from your lens. I can tell you already that initial reactions have been ones of curiosity, and that is perfectly natural. And we'll, in the Q&A, I've seen in the chat roll, there's some questions that suggest that there's curiosity. There are people that see this as opportunity. Oh my gosh, my neighborhood book club has wanted to serve dinner, but the dinner that we always want has never been there. Congratulations, this is a new opportunity for your book club to consider coming to serve at the Alexandria Community Shelter. Additionally, as it says number 4 here, help spread the word. You all know what it's like to volunteer at Carpenter Shelter in some way, shape, or form, and you can help us figure out who additionally needs to hear about this opportunity. So please do let us know if there are people that you think you would like to reach out to, and an assist from us would be helpful. We would love to know that. If you simply want to handle it in a different way, let us know what that looks like. But please do help share that there are opportunities coming. In that sense, I think we are ready for the next slide that comes here. Okay. Demi, do you want to give it another try and see if your technology is working a little more smoothly now?
Yes. I am here. So now we would love to move into our meal provider spotlight. We do have our existing volunteers that have been with Carpenter Shelter, extending the love through warmth of meals and meal service. And we would love to just allow them to give a little insight and perspective on their experience here at Carpenter Shelter. So I will definitely love to start with Nancy DePaulo. If you could just, of course, allow us to just understand your experience a little bit more about volunteering with us here at Carpenter Shelter.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I see a lot of friends who already know what to do, so I'll keep it brief. I serve lunch probably 2 to 3 times a week, which gives me a chance to kind of, I don't know, figure out a few easy ways to do things and really get to know residents. Lunch is a much easier meal to serve than dinner. You have to be a little more creative sometimes because we tend to have quite a few days a week without food being brought in. So it's a matter of going through and using leftovers and getting creative. But the flip side is there are many fewer people, many fewer residents, and you get to know them better and know their needs and just their personalities. So if you're able to do lunch, it's a really fun way to do things. It's not hard to do. Everyone's there to support you. We were talking about food delivery. The one request is, I think officially delivery for lunch is from 11 to 11:30, because it really does take half an hour to warm, prep, do all sorts of things. And I think dinner is the same thing, where it's asked to be brought before 5:30, I think. So that's one important thing, because when it comes late, of course, everyone makes it work, but it does make it harder, and it can delay things for residents who might have to get off to work or that kind of thing. It's been nice to see the pantry getting fuller again. It's still a struggle for the kids, guys. You know, the other day we had a rice. It was too spicy, so I was running around with Gabe's help making ramen and that kind of thing. So it really helps to have in the especially freeze-dried ramen, freeze-dried mac and cheese is a favorite. The reality is a lot of young children don't have expansive likes in their, their meals. So got to be able to take care of them. So that's something that's always helpful. And again, leftovers come in handy. I think one of the things I tell people who come in and haven't done it is go to that fridge. What are the late plates are usually left? What's on there that we could serve to people who want an alternative? Is there macaroni in there? Is there some pizza that you can give to the kids? That kind of thing. So to all you people who do such a great job at dinner, do not worry. We use the leftovers. And if you're thinking about serving lunch, know that you can be really creative, and salads and stuff are very appreciated. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nancy. We truly appreciate your continued support and generosity to us at Carpenter Shelter. Now we will turn it over to Maggie Smith.
Hi. Am I on? Did I unmute myself? Okay, cool.
Yes, you are.
I also think that we're speaking to people who know about serving meals. I don't know how many people on the call have not served, but I would pretty much echo everything that Nancy just said. I also serve lunches, and I do that with 2 groups. One is a little ad hoc group that we called ourselves the Kitchen Crew, for lack of better name. We were like the orphans, so we didn't belong to any particular company or faith-based group or whatever, but we wanted to serve. So back in the day, we just got put together, and we have our own aprons now, so you can identify us. And then with my neighborhood, I do it with my neighbors. We put together a group, and that is something that people could do, I think, really easily to support. I agree, lunch is probably a little bit less difficult. I don't even know about difficult, that might not be the right word, but it's an easy meal to serve. The hardest thing, I think, and we often hear some frustration there, is anticipating how many people we're going to be serving. And what my lesson from that is, kind of stop asking, just relax. If you can't insist that you have to know whether it's 20 or 25 or 30 or 35, we always err on the side of too much. And that may have to change. I don't know with the new system, because right now, especially in the winter, the fallback is always, if a tray hasn't been started yet, if we have a whole tray of food, that can probably go to winter shelter, and so we don't feel bad if we've brought too much. We feel as if it's going to be used. Now, again, when you have two kitchens going, there may not be that ability. And I know we don't want to waste food either. So that may take some time to get used to. My only other observation, two of them over the years, one is when we started, especially with my neighbors, everybody has such big hearts. And initially we all think that comfort food is the way to go. A nice hearty casserole and some really heavy food. And what I've found out is, you know what? Clean and fresh is the way to go. So fresh fruits and vegetables and lighter meals. We've heard over the years, sometimes there are questionnaires to the residents, and I remember one was, oh, stop with the noodles, no more noodles. So we've tried to switch it up, and again, we have a little flexibility there at lunch. Soup and sandwich, soup and salad is always an option. But I really think, and the other thing is, Nancy pointed out correctly, it's a little challenging with the kids because they have perhaps different desires at lunch. But I also am always amazed when I say, oh, this is probably something the children won't like, and the kids love it. So you can't, the prejudging how the food is going to be received, I have learned to stop myself from doing. Don't anticipate that someone's going to like or dislike what we have. Just put it out there, but offer options. Every once in a while, we forget to have something that doesn't have meat in it. And so you quickly have to go to that refrigerator, find the salads and the veggies and the things that can be offered up. But the other thing I thought, and this is a personal take, and I may be totally wrong, but as we've gone along with our lunches, we like to offer options even in how you put together a sandwich or what you put on the salad. And it strikes me that for many of our residents, boy, so much of life is not something they get to control, So if they can control whether there are onions on their salad or whether the sandwich is pre-made with certain things that they don't want, I find that, I don't know, I could be totally wrong, but my thought is give them choice, give them the ability to decide what goes on their plate. And so to the extent a meal can do that, I feel that that's a little contribution that I like to do if at all possible. So that's really about it. I will say, as in so many of the things that my experiences, I think we as servers, especially if you stay and serve, you get so much out of it, to see how the food is received, to interact with people. Nancy talks about having been there a couple of times every week. She gets to know who the current residents are. I work a lot at the front desk, so I get to recognize names and faces. And I like to say hello and call somebody by their name when I see them at lunch. It makes it more fun for everybody, I think. So anybody on this call who has never done this before, I think you'll find it incredibly satisfying and fun. And for those of us who are doing it already, I think there's going to be a challenge in meeting all the requirements at both locations. So I hope we can, I think, spread the word. Maybe the real solution is try to get other work groups, neighborhood groups, energized and signed up as quickly as possible.
Awesome. Share your experience here, Alexandria. Okay. Your success.
All right, I'm going to grab the mantle once again. I appreciate everybody's input so far. We've got some questions that have come in from the chat. Feel free, there is a raise function. If you look on your screen, if you'd like to offer a question, and kudos to Nancy for being the first to find that, it's going to number what order those questions have come in. So if you hit your raise button, that's the way to get in the queue line. We would really appreciate that. Before we get to Nancy's question, I do want to turn to Lawrence because I know that there's been some great questions just around infrastructure and what's the kitchen. Lawrence, can you give just a brief rundown of what is there in the kitchen as far as equipment? In particular, what do you know about the oven situation, or is that a we'll have to find out and circle back to everybody?
Sure, absolutely. In regards to the ovens, there are two ovens, two operating ovens over there at Alexandria Community Shelter. There are 4 burners on the stove, I believe, four burners. There's a warming side, and I mentioned there's a sanitation sink, a dishwashing area, a walk-in refrigerator, and a walk-in freezer.
The other thing that hasn't come up yet tonight, but it's come up to me in some conversations, and I just wanted to roll it out there. We appreciate all of our meal providers and our meal servers have done. And I want to make sure that when you log off the call tonight, you don't feel like we are asking you to do twice as much as you're currently doing. We are asking you to stay with us and that there are options. So some people may choose, you know what, I know what happens in the kitchen at 930 North Henry, and that's where I want to stay. And there are other people that are really intrigued by what's going on over at the Alexandria Community Shelter. And trust me, we can use your help over there as well. So we are not asking everyone to double, but if there are different meal times than what you've currently got available to you here at 930 North Henry, there are options coming over at ACS as well. So hopefully this is viewed at much more as an opportunity. With that, Nancy.
Hi, thanks. So I know in the chat, quite a few of us were like, man, we'd like to go in and kind of tour the kitchen to have some comfort level. So I know, Demi, we can arrange it with you, but there are enough of us, I think, already who have said we want to. It might be you want to offer us some times or something. That's just an idea. I saw the pantry has a lot of locks on it, which I could understand. So when we come in, are we handed those keys? Like,
I'll jump in, Nancy. The reason the pantry is locked is the current providers over there is Volunteers of America. When they did the proposal, they didn't opt to provide meal services. So the city took over the meal services. So currently there's a contracted meal provider over there through the city. In order to maintain their confidentiality, maintain their security of their possessions, they're the ones that actually put those locks on the pantry. Starting when we take over, starting December 13th, those locks will be removed and we'll have access to those pantries.
Great, thanks. And my other question was just I see there's a front desk. Is it going to be similar where there's a manned front desk and monitors kind of for support, or that you could call in if needed, or what's it going to be like when you walk in?
Sure. Right now at ACS, that's the main desk. That's the staff desk. Their design setup's a little bit different with Carpenters. Where Carpenters, you had the central front desk on the right, then the case management staff desk is to the left-hand side. ACS, there's just one desk there. So we're gonna get over there and take a look at how operations work over there. Right now, we're just staffing it with our Carpenter shelter staff. So we'll look at operations and to see if there'll be future opportunities for a volunteer to be at that desk.
Great, thanks. And I wasn't even thinking about, I was just trying to picture what it's like and, if you're there alone. Wonderful. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Nancy.
Excellent. I see some things coming in the chat here. How about big serving utensils, pots, and pans? There is infrastructure over there currently in the kitchen that city staff are using that will be available to us. We are as we are with many things, looking with new eyes at what's there, and is that going to work for Team Carpenters? And so we will be assessing what that is for right now, but we do know it's a fully functional kitchen right now. It could probably use some enhancements in a variety of different ways, but again, your input will help us figure out what that is and what that needs to be.
Also, in the video, the kitchen really didn't look that hot, but we are gonna do a deep cleaning of that. So some things as you see now tonight on this screen will not be the same way come December 13th. And as we go forward, it'll probably look a little bit different on January 13th. So this is all progress for us.
Yep.
Yeah, just to piggyback, actually, the city has scheduled a deep cleaning for the kitchen on December the 12th. So it'll be completely clean and ready for us when we take over on December the 13th.
Great. Mary, I see your question here. What is the capacity of ACS? Jamie, can I bounce that over to you?
Certainly. So ACS serves 6 families as well as single men and women. So with 6 families, that's probably about 12 to 15 kids, and then the rest will be adults. And then it's up to 64 people.
Yep. I do see there's a groundswell of support for having some tours of the kitchen there. We hear you fully, and we want you to get in and have eyes on the opportunity as well. So yes, we will make that happen. A kitchen shower. Oh my goodness, how entertaining. I like that idea. Yes, some additional equipment in there, I'm guessing, is going to be perfectly well suited. Are there other questions that people have? Are any Carpenter Shelter staff relocating to ACS? Jamie, would you like to field that one?
Yeah, so we are quickly finalizing the hiring process. We have not yet announced some of the changes, which may include staff transitioning roles with new opportunities that are on the horizon. The only one that we've officially shared is Denise Ziegler, who was our winter shelter coordinator and is now stepping in as the ACS director. But with the expansion, this does bring new opportunities for staff to also look for areas that might interest them. So we might see some changes. Yeah.
Excellent. Lawrence, this next one is coming to you. It's from Mary Beth. Are the winter shelter clients on top of the 64?
Hi, Mary Beth. Yes, the winter shelter clients is a separate population of separate programs. Those 64, specifically those residents at Alexandria Community Shelter, the emergency shelter. So winter shelter is a separate program, a separate approximately 30 residents on top of that 64.
And Lawrence, what is the food service for winter shelter? Is that if food is available, there's a certain requirement? What does that look like?
Sure, I believe Nancy and Maggie pushed on it. Any extra food we had, we utilized that for winter shelter, as well as our Davis Place, our day drop-in program. So no food goes to waste. If a resident is actually employed, in addition to a lunch bag, we'll provide them with additional late place that we have left over so he or she can have a hot meal. So no food goes to waste here at Carpenter's. And your question, Laura, you're not expected to feed the winter shelter residents. Most of the food meal providers have excess food that we utilize for winter shelter. Also, starting in January, Alpha Street Baptist Church will also be providing some meal support specifically for the winter shelter.
I can tell you, in addition, and as we're speaking about leftovers, a special shout out to a pair of volunteers that are in the kitchen regularly at Carpenter's, and that is Mary Beth and Mary Ann, who come in and make sure that our refrigerators get cleaned out and organized. And just a special shout out to them and to sensitize you all to one of the themes that they've seen is when additional things come in to really watch for the use first stickers that they put on things. They've got eyes so regularly on what tends to come in high volume, which tends to be some green salads, which is great. We just want to make sure that we use those materials that have been here the longest first before opening fresh and new. And so Mary Beth or Mary Ann, is there anything additional in that vein?
Demi, are you going to talk about fill the fridge?
Yes. Did Mary Beth or Mary Ann want to go before I briefly talked about Fill the Fridge campaign?
No, thanks. I think Shannon summed
Yeah.
it up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Shannon, Mary Ann. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome. So I just briefly wanted to talk about our Fill the Fridge campaign, which actually was a very great idea that came from one of our continued volunteers, Nancy DePaulo. She definitely came up with an awesome idea that we could expand upon in order to continuously make sure that our pantry is being filled. So within the coming weeks, we will be working on a Fill the Fridge campaign. And what that will briefly entail is us collecting refrigerated items, frozen items, pantry items for both Carpenter Shelter as well as Alexandria Shelter to continuously make sure that we always have food in our pantries as well as our refrigerators and freezers for days that we may not have a volunteer for our meal delivery and or of course meal service, where we can of course unthaw a meal, pop it in the oven, and make sure that every single resident still has a meal to enjoy for whether that be breakfast, lunch, or dinner, as well as some of our community clients being able to shop in our pantry to get food they may need, of course, for their own homes. So that is just, of course, a brief overview of what the Fill the Fridge campaign would be. So what that will look like too is like drop-offs to Carpenter Shelter as well as Alexandria Community Shelter. The details are not definite as of yet, but as we work through the details, of course, if you have any additional suggestions as to how we can make this, a smoother to your ideas, you can email me at dhenry, at carpentershelter.org. And we can definitely take those ideas into consideration so that we can, of course, allow this campaign to be a success. I believe that is all on Fill the Fridge campaign.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Demi. Other additional questions? Are there things you expected to hear that you haven't yet tonight? And if so, you can either use the raise hand function or you can put it in the chat.
Okay.
We appreciate everyone signing in tonight. Just as a quick recap, thank you for your record of service that you've had to Carpenters in the past. We look forward to you continuing in a way that works for you. Hopefully, as you look at this, you see that there are options available to you. We do want to hear from you. We do want to see this through your lens as best as possible. So please do stay in touch about this. We are so grateful. We're 2 shots excited and 1 shot nervous that a week from this Wednesday is when we get rolling. So stick with us. We're going to do this. And I think the bottom line is we're going to provide the best possible service we can to the residents that are over there. And we're so appreciative.
And
we will do a recap of this meeting and put that out to you electronically, just so that you've got some of the questions and answers before you. For those who are interested in a tour to see the kitchen, please reach out to Demi and we will find a time or two in which we can schedule in advance to have people come and see what is available over there. Monice, you wanted to jump in with something?
Yeah, I was wondering if they wanted to go as a group or by singularly, and I think a group would be great. So if when you reach out to Demi, give her a couple of dates and times that might work for you.
Great. All right.
Good night, everybody. Oh, sorry.
If no further questions, have a great night, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Good night. Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Bye.
Looking forward to seeing you in the kitchen. Hi, Nadine.